Okay.
We are 5.
Yes, we are.
So Matt, what's the deal?
Hold on, I'll share a screen because I think I can do it from my side. Let me open the game and everything. But while you guys can talk, you guys can talk about Matt's pick in the draft.
I'm really surprised that he didn't just jump all over Maxwell, the receiver, and run.
Well, I did, didn't I?
Oh, did you pick him? I haven't been back on for a little while.
I picked him about an hour ago.
I was going to say, okay. I mean, I thought you maybe were having like heart failure that he was still sitting there at 3, and that's what took so long. I said,
maybe I did. It's been a crazy draft so far. Tried to move up to number 1. That didn't work because Kodos made a better offer. Then I tried to trade down, and now the number 2 player ended up in the number 3 pick. So, ta-da!
yeah, I don't understand exactly what happened with the 1-2 pick, and I mean, apparently there's some attitude there about certain things, but I mean, to me, if you're in a group of 30 people, and you're gonna sit there and I'm gonna be the reason that 30 other people have to wait for a week, I'm uncomfortable with that. I'm not doing that.
All right, guys, can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yeah, I can see it.
Perfect.
Yep.
So I wanted to get everyone on because we wanted to do an after-season review about what we did and then jump into the off-season. I know Matteo couldn't wait to be finished with his season.
Look what it got him, though.
What season?
Exactly.
Yeah, but look what it got him. A nice shiny wide receiver to go with last year's. I mean, it was worth it, wasn't it, Matt?
Actually, I think I won more games than I lost in the last 8 games. So I really tried to not end up at the number 1 pick. So
yeah, you took this guy. Not bad. So it wasn't bad losing all those games to get this guy.
yeah, that's what happens. It's but it never was intended. So
But I know Howie, he almost took his team deep into the playoffs. Quick, I know you were upset because if you missed the playoffs, you know, at the end.
I had a weird roller coaster. I don't think it's the most interesting story. I think the Merchantmen are the peculiar story of last season. That's a franchise we could count on year in and year out. We know that Matthias puts in a great deal of time and like is very meticulous with the roster. You can tell it's a manicured team. He's very committed to cohesion and has a game plan that's usually above average in effectiveness. So it was just a peculiar circumstance to watch them tumble. I don't even remember what it was, 0-7 or 0-8 or something like that. It just doesn't happen out that way.
Yeah, they were over for a long time.
He was, yeah, I think it was
0-8,
right?
Yeah.
I know he was banging his head against the wall saying, what is going on? Because the year before, in 2097...
we collapsed in the season before too, so we went from 8-1 to 10-6. No, that's 97 season.
And now 98.
How much of it do you lay at the feet of your quarterback? Are the Merchantmen faithful calling for the head of Ernest Ashley? Is he a dead man walking?
No, he's not. I think Red Zone made a good comment about it on the previous chat we had. I'm too much asking Ernest Ashley to go throw long and deep passes. He's just not capable of doing it. So we need a different game plan. It's quite clear now.
Yeah, because if you look at his long passes and deep passes, it's it's not there, the ratings. And I know you have a belief, Quick, that if someone's at 0, they're really maybe negative 30.
Yeah, this has become my own like little mythology I tote around. But yeah, I don't see this guy as being a void in those ratings. So, but still, like a long pass rating I see on your screen of 13, and I see him. I'm looking on the website. I see more or less the same thing. I mean, that's a guy who's going to just miss a bunch of those plays, right? You're going to try and throw a 20-yard pass, and you're going to get that message in Solovision. The quarterback just threw a bad pass, or whatever the language is. So if you try 6 of those, he's probably going to make 2 of them are just going to never have a chance because the quarterback blew it, and that hurts. Those are not high percentage plays to begin with.
True, right. And when you also look at the number of drop passes by the wide receivers, it just adds up. So Schultz obviously Mr. dropped passes.
So who are your 2 guys? It's Schultz and Vinny's your rookie.
Yeah, but that rookie's going to be a big part of things. Yes, although rookie receivers don't always jump in and play great the rookie year, I think that one's going to be on the field a lot.
Well, he wasn't the best rookie I ever had, but he's going to be a great guy in the next season.
Well, I meant Maxwell. I'm sure the other guy's going to be a big part of your offense.
Yeah, it's not my style, but maybe I need to go the four wide receiver route or something.
Well, you can always trade one.
I mean, you set up different plays for each of them, and
yeah.
People can pick their poison. Who are you going to double? I mean, that's.
Howie, are you looking for a receiver for your team, for your Texas?
I might be looking for a receiver. No, well,
I just missed
He's not going to tell us.
Listen, but honestly, can you ever have that many, too many good wide receivers?
There you go.
I don't know what I really am going to do sitting at 22. I know all the guys I have my eyes on aren't going to be on the board. So the question is do you just go with an offensive skill guy, or do I draft a cornerback? My MO the last couple of years has seemed to be pick up a free agent cornerback on the cheap, and then watch him get signed away for big money 2-3 years later. So I might invest in a cornerback. I haven't really had a lockdown corner since Cleaverly retired. So if there's a good cornerback on the board when it's my pick, I might take one. I might take a wide receiver if there's one that's better. I don't know. We'll see what's available.
Well, your defense was stout last year. That's for sure.
I'm impressed he was honest. I figured we're going to look and see who the best available player is.
Well,
that kind of deal.
Isn't that pretty much what we just got, though? I mean, I'd love to have a wide receiver, but I'll take big red bars where we can find them, and maybe it'll be somewhere like cornerback. Isn't that what everybody drafted in the 20s says?
Pretty much.
Pretty much. Or I might take an offensive lineman to shore up the run game. But
right, there we go. Now the complete forsythia bush is now established.
Listen, I can tell you that I won't take a quarterback, I won't take a running back, I won't take a defensive lineman, and I won't take a linebacker. How's that? That narrowed down.
There you go. That's a little better.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
He's gonna take a punter.
Unless there's a good one available. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm going to guess he won't take a punter or a kicker or a long snapper either, but that's going out on a limb maybe.
Well, I don't know. I might take a kicker. Who knows? Especially with the off-season trouble I had, or the preseason struggles I had with the kicker last season. I think I went through 3 or 4 kickers before I finally settled on CVs that he didn't re-sign.
Do you think you figured out, Howie? Did you think you figured out the stumbling block that you hit in the middle of the season, and then you turned your team around again?
My offensive line was a sieve. So what I ended up doing was I benched. I think I benched Finkel or whatever the guy I traded for with Tizak. I benched him. I put in a different tackle, and then I would just take 12 passing plays where the running back was just was an outlet, and just put him into pass protection, and that seemed to shore things up a little bit.
This is the guy you said you traded for. Finkel's.
Yeah, that guy.
Got it.
Yeah, those guys you trade, you work out with T-Zac and you get one of his players. Those guys are all sandcastles, right? You make a deal, you send him a bunch of draft picks, and then these guys turn into nothing for us.
That's his secret, right?
Hang on, T-Zac's trying to dial in. I can hear him.
Yeah, exactly.
That's because he game plans his players perfectly, so they look great. Yeah. And then you're like, I want that player. And then you put them on your team, and your game plan is mush, and so they're mush.
Yes. Actually, I do think that is the root of sometimes our difficulty in that circumstance is you look at a player and the stats he accumulates in the league, and you say, wow, yeah, I'd love, running back who gets me 5.5 yards per carry. That sounds great. I'll sign that guy or I'll trade for that guy. And then it turns out, yeah, he was on Ben's team and he was getting 11 opportunities, but they're all perfect opportunities for that weird skill set. And unless you are finely trained in the same, dark arts of game planning as some of these guys, you shouldn't expect the same thing to transport. So
I agree.
Some of us are just going to be the Jaguars, right? It's going to be happening.
I agree, because there's been times I scratch my head and I'm like, how is this guy doing it with this guy? And then you have the same player because you're looking at his stats from before and you're like, he's not doing the same thing. There you go. So, did you think you were going to end up at this record, Howie, or did you think you were going to go higher?
Honestly, before the season started, I kind of figured this is the record that I was going to have, kind of around that 10-6 mark. And then when I started off with a couple of wins, I was like, this could be a pretty good season. And then kind of tanked in the middle, and then I was questioning whether I'd even make the playoffs. And then when I started to kind of, figure out, okay, I didn't have 18 hurries this game. Well, maybe I got to have a chance. And I just had to, if I could keep my quarterback from all those incompletions with the hurries, I'd have a chance to win some games. So in the end, it's right where I thought I was going to be.
How about you, Quick?
I wasn't sure what to do. I'm in a weird spot. I had a quarterback who was on my team for like 15 seasons, and at the back end of that, my team got a lot of tailwind just by having a really high cohesion offense. So I kept a bunch of receivers and tight ends and folks around to basically buoy that system. And now I'm maybe 3 or 4 years deep, post Blanchette, and my team is like a rudderless ship. I think my roster's okay, but I didn't know what to expect. There was this oddball runaround quarterback in the first round of last year's draft. So even though he wasn't a chemistry fit for me, and the audience will gasp, I drafted a non-affinity player to be a centerpiece for my team, knowing that I thought his skills would probably erode, and they did. So I threw him out there. Yeah, this guy here, bluegrass guy, Willie Monroe. But I still think there's enough there to kind of be intrigued by. And he didn't have a terrible first season. I more or less threw the season away when I was something like 3-6, and then we win 6 in a row, and we were 1 win away from having a bye week. Instead, I lose that game. I missed the playoffs, and I bollocksed up my spot in the draft. I think I'm picking 20 again. So awesome. I can't get any. I'll be down there. I'll be down there looking at those nice guards and those nice safeties and stuff instead of something I actually need, like a quarterback or a wide receiver.
He reminds me, your quarterback here. He reminds me of Iowa's quarterback, Devine.
Why?
And he's putting up 35, 37
Yeah.
touchdowns.
Similar.
So you might be in this ballpark with this guy, Monroe.
Yeah, I think that's probably about where I would expect and hope that he would land at. Maybe I can get him to 2-1 touchdowns to interceptions. My guy's got something like a a 10 avoid interception rating. So he's going to be a nightmare just to like try and get to sleep. But I think I can get my dude up to 7 yards an attempt and maybe a rating of 85 or so. And maybe he'll be a net positive running the ball here and there. So I don't know. I don't think I'll build the team around this guy, but maybe I'll let him be my cheap guy for a couple more seasons. I don't know. I don't know where to set expectations. You know, this past year I ended up 9-7. That seems maybe about right. I don't know. This coming year, should we be better? You're supposed to after a rookie quarterback. This game seems like it's hardwired to punish a quarterback's first season as a starter. So, you know, a few extra interceptions and ghastly plays and so forth. So I would assume he'll be over a little bit of that. But yeah, that Divine is probably a reasonable benchmark for me.
And then we have Red Zone.
He had a good season for such for a rookie. So
I think I said when we talked last year, Clay, we didn't have the tight end to make that offense work. I built a West Coast offense, and I built it around a lot of targets, primary and secondary, to the tight end. And then I drafted the rookie, and he didn't turn out. And I didn't pay attention to it in free agency long enough. And then when I started to look around for trade options, I'm like, okay, am I really going to spend a fortune for what's really a mediocre tight end from 2 or 3 teams? You know, I mean, they weren't great. You know, they weren't coming in here and going to give me 3, 4, 5 years of top production. You know, I mean, I'm like, am I really going to spend the draft picks it takes to get them? Or am I going to just sign some free agents and take my chances? And I went with the latter and paid the price. And our offense was really spotty down the stretch, and we lost some games. And, you know, I mean, I think I lost both games to Iowa, and he won the division by 1. So, I mean, if I'd have split with him, I win the division and go to the playoffs. I mean, it was that simple. For the whole season, it came down to those 2 games.
Yes, it did. There you go.
I think Chesapeake, my Chitlins were one of the teams trying to hustle you our, you know, late career tight ends in the middle of that flurry. So if I had shipped you the guy you needed, then maybe I would have lost a few more down the stretch. You would have won a few more down the stretch. We both would have been happy. You know, it's a missed opportunity.
My problem with that whole scenario wasn't that I was going to say, okay, there's no way I'm paying that for this guy. My problem was that he had 1 year left on his contract. I'm sorry, he had 2. And the second year, I'm going to have to re-sign him, and I'm already over the cap.
Right.
Which guy were you trying to? Is this guy?
Yeah, I think so.
They would keep this guy. So you're going to trade. What were we talking about? A second or a third?
Yeah, probably. I mean, I don't know. I usually want a second rounder, but I wasn't trying to razz you. I thought it was interesting that I'm pissed off that I won a few too many games. You're pissed off you lost a few too many games.
Exactly.
We had a sliding door, I think.
So the question is, would I have spent a second or third round pick to make the playoffs last year? Not unless we win the bowl.
Right.
It was that one game. Look at that. 8-8, 8-8, 7-9, 6-10.
Crazy.
Yeah, our division is it's going to be a bloodbath.
Well, for what it's worth, with the tight end, that offense is ripping it apart in CFL right now. QB's got a 126 QBR through 4 games, 15 TDs and 3 picks, and we're 4-0. So, and it's a very similar team with a veteran QB. Now, question is, where do I get a tight end here? And I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, I don't see anybody that's going to come in here and make that big impact. I just don't. I thought about trying to trade up. I think that the elite tight end in this draft will be gone before 16, and that's fine. I don't know that I want to pick a tight end that high, but
I think he's going at 4.
Yeah, I think he went.
Can we look at that guy?
He went already at 4.
Yeah, can we look at that guy? I was fully prepared to pick that guy at number 3.
This guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I was surprised. I was looking at your roster. I was surprised you didn't take the tight end.
Yeah, with already having the receiver, it wouldn't have been a bad pick.
My
still
tight
like
end
the receiver
retired,
better.
so I did have the I needed one.
I still like the receiver pick better, though. I mean, he should have won it too. I'm confused.
Sure. Yeah, it's. Yeah,
Okay,
I think there are asterisks.
You mean this person right here?
Yeah, that's a sure thing right there. Right.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, again, now what should I do? Should I take multiple first round picks to move up and get him, and then watch a rookie tight end take a year to develop before he can really make any impact? And how old is Brady Ladner when that happens? So you're looking at things, you're getting squeezed on both sides and going, I think I'll just sit and wait. I'll wait.
How much would it cost you to move up to 2? Or to
Two?
3? Yeah, or to 3 if you wanted to move up to grab this tight end, because you would have had to move up to 3rd spot.
From 16?
Yes.
Probably 16 and 2 future firsts and maybe more.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, a lot more even.
Like Kodos, right? Toronto.
What did
GM?
Kodos pay to move to 1?
He paid.
Yeah, but that a quarterback's different, right? I mean, even as much as we're all in love with wide receivers, I mean, moving up for a quarterback, and that guy's not just a run-of-the-mill first-pick quarterback. That's a heck of a good-looking quarterback prospect.
No, you're looking at the wrong quarterback.
Am I?
Yeah.
Oops.
I don't know.
There's the guy.
Livingston. This is the guy.
I think
That's him.
where our team sits right now, it's going to be we're going to have to sit here and absolutely play the best available game, because you don't know how much longer you're going to have Ladner. Is his performance going to drop? You know, you don't know the receivers; they're getting older. You don't have a tight end.
Are you talking about your guys here?
My right tackle was a cap nightmare. So I mean, I could take somebody there and cut him and fix all my cap issues. But what does that do for this season? Really? I mean, how's that play out? I mean, it's going to be an interesting pick at 16. I don't know what we're going to do.
Well, what about Kansas? You were just looking at that pretty tight division. What's the situation over there in Kansas? You gonna roll out Old Man Forrest for another season and take a whack at it and pull it all together?
I am going to roll them out. Yeah, I was very disappointed. My biggest problems that I've been seeing has been when I look over the game plays or the game logs, penalties and turnovers. Those are my 2 biggest things, where we'll move the ball down the field and there'll be holding. We'll move the ball down the field, there'll be something. And so I'm trying to get players that are not going to give me a lot of penalties. I want smart players.
Right.
I want to minimize that so it doesn't kill my drive. And then I need to stop fumbling or turning over the ball. I think we were last in turnovers or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. So those are big key issues for me that I've been noticing.
So if you feel like you have a team fumbling problem, like how do you address that? Is that a matter of finding the 1 or 2 guys that seem to be, I mean, other than the quarterback, where that's maybe complicated, but like if you have a running back who fumbled 8 times, is he just gone? Is that the way you just, find the lowest hanging fruit and rip it off the tree?
I'm trying to figure that one out. That's the hardest one, because you don't know which running backs are going to fumble. And then you have to say to yourself, and this is what I say to myself, how many positive plays does this player give me compared to how many negative plays? And that's how I kind of gauge someone and helping me make a decision on that. Like we were, I believe, 9th in offense, so it wasn't that bad. And we were, I believe, number 1 or number 2 in defense. So we do have the team to do something. We're just stumbling against ourselves. Plus a little bit of game planning as well I need to fix up. But
yeah, so I'm looking at your starting halfback Young, and I would have to think. I mean, it's not an egregious. You gave him 300 plus carries each of the last 2 seasons, and he's fumbled 6 and 7 times. That's not outrageous, right? That's like once every 50 touches or so.
Yeah, that's not really that bad.
That doesn't sound awful, but still, I mean, if you're ticked off about fumbles, I mean, this guy isn't giving you 5 1/4 yards per carry, where the other side of the ledger is lots of really helpful plays, right? I mean, I like the bar distribution on this guy, but he's not crushing it on the stat line.
so let's look at
Well, let me ask you a question quick. I read something. I'm trying to remember where. I think it was on FOFC that you wrote. I guess it's been a while. You said something to the effect of you would cheer when you would see some other team in your division get rid of their 35 or 40 rated guard and go out free agency and get a 50 or 60 guy because you'd keep your 35 overall guy in your cohesion and run better. So now here's my question. Does that work the same way when you start changing running backs? Is your running game affected that way for a season or two until the cohesion gets back? Or are we just talking O-line and the running backs don't matter?
So I totally stand by that notion that I think cohesion is undervalued, even though I think it's getting more attention now than a couple years ago real time. But I figure the running game doesn't matter. I don't really care to win by running effectively. So cohesion on the offensive line, yeah, and I'm very committed to that. Give me that 8-year veteran with high personality who's a good cohesion and chemistry asset for my offensive line. I'll play him at right guard even if he's 28. That's fine with me. And I'm happy to have my division rivals chase after their third round pick, who they hope might one day be a 52. He won't, but they'll hope he will. That's cool with me. So I love seeing that happen. I think cohesion is undervalued, but I don't chase it at the running back position just because I think for the most part running backs don't matter.
So you don't think that just by sitting tight and letting another season go by, the fumble problems in Kansas might get better all by themselves? You don't think that'll happen?
I don't know that I would answer it that fine grain. I just, I'm not sure I have a really consolidated worldview here. I don't know. This guy looks like trash to me. So I think he's a running back 3. You use him for special teams and maybe you keep him around or use him as your third down back or something. But I want to see at least one season that where he's given me plus running performance.
I agree. Like if you look at the team stats, minus 13 turnovers. That's awful.
Right.
So I put up only 21 points a game. I'm giving up 22 points a game. I have 366 yards of total offense, but I stopped the other team for 297 yards of defense, which is pretty good. But my turnovers have been atrocious. And then I go over here and I'm looking at penalties. Okay, I have 123 penalties. So I need to work on those things to stop big plays where I see that I get it down to the red zone, but I'm called back for a holding penalty. Those are killers, and I've been seeing that a lot. Or the guy catches a pass, or my running back runs the ball, fumble, kills the drive. So it is a hard one to figure out quick to answer your question. I have to think about it. Is there a low-rated running back who will give you more positive yards, less fumbles? I will put that player in any day of the week.
Yeah. That's
the problem with that is you just don't know if the guy is a fumbler or does have those sticky hands that the ball never falls. So.
Well, the only thing I can go is by stats. I'll look at their stats and I'll see how many times they fumble and kind of get an average of where they are.
Yeah, but you need like 2 full seasons of data to figure out if the guy is a fumbler or not.
Correct. So that's going to be free agency pickups for me.
But I do think we have one more data point to go on, and it's a little subtle. I haven't seen anybody try to do a formula for avoid fumbles like some people have tried to break down avoid interceptions for quarterback, but the same concept applies, right? And so we probably think that the avoid fumbles rating is maybe 10 or 20% of the overall rating that your scout shows you for a running back. So there are going to be guys,
I agree with that, yeah.
Yeah, so there are going to be guys where you can eyeball their bar profile and you say, yeah, that's a 30 rated guy. But if your scout is saying he's got him rated at 39, that's a decent indicator that the hidden piece is an asset and he's a non-fumble. I think there's something there that if we're not paying attention to what's just around the corner, we're missing. I think that's probably more valuable than 2 full seasons of data, because rando guys are going to fumble or not over the short term, and that can even be 32 games.
Anyone want to run it back? I'm trading him.
Yeah,
You got one for sale, huh?
Get the thing posted before this publishes.
T-Zach, if you're listening, we want to avoid fumbles, buddy. Come on, give us a chart.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, one of you Python guys, get on this, man.
And then I look at my red zone. How am I doing in the red zone? Which is not bad, a 5.1. So those are key issues to see how my team's doing and what I need to fix. So at the end of the day, I think we called it. We said that we were going to end up at 8-8 or 7-9. But I think next season, if I can fix those 2 items, I can see ourselves at 10-6. Our team.
I like it. Plant a flag. That's good. Double-digit wins. Get the people fired up. They'll sell some tickets. I like it.
Rezzo doesn't like that. I know he doesn't.
I'm just sitting here smiling. I don't like predicting my record. I just don't do it. If I think we have a good team, then I'll say I think we can be a playoff team. But picking a total wins or saying I'm going to win the division, hey, we got Iowa who just won a bowl 2 seasons ago. That's a bold statement. I'm not going to say that. I mean, I think we'll be okay.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
We'll be in the mix.
Although in the mix, it puts you in line for the worst possible spot, that notorious 7th seed, where you're just barely watching the playoffs from front row seats, and then you sit at the draft and watch all the good players leave.
Well,
that's the downside, sure. I mean, you're sitting here and saying, okay, I'm picking 16th. Sure like to be in that top 10. Well, you won too many games.
Right.
But tell yourself that week 12, when you're still trying to make the playoffs.
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, it's a pretty tough balance.
And hats off to the Merchantmen for fighting hard down the stretch in what was pretty clearly a lost season. By 0-8, there's nothing you're going to be able to do, but they end up playing strong down the stretch, and it messes up his draft slot. Maybe the serendipity of getting that wide receiver at pick 3, kind of evens the scales out a little bit.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with that. To me, it was just a big test to figure out if I could beat teams like Orlando and Oakland and Paris and Bordeaux, and we played Colorado close. So I just had a chance to fool around with the game plan and figure out what was going wrong and what might work and what might not work on defense.
Now,
so I think I learned a thing or two, and still ended up with a terrible record.
I think that's exactly right. Well, you always learn more when you're losing. When you're winning, you're afraid to change anything. Let's just leave it alone. Send the foul back. When you start to lose, you start looking, okay, why are we losing? And then you learn more. At least I did.
That's an interesting question or statement you made, Red Zone. So let's say you lost a game with that game plan, right? Would you change it, or would you continue to run it again? Because maybe it was just the other team that you were playing.
Right. And I mean, that's the balancing act. I mean, I think, I go in and I watch the game. I don't watch all of them on Soul Vision, and I've been chastised by other friends saying, you need to watch them. You need to watch them. And I don't have the time to watch all the games in all 4 leagues I play in. But the CFL, I've watched all 4 games this year. And then I'll go down to the game log, and I want to see what happened and why it happened, good and bad. And then, if you notice something that stands out, you pull the game plan up and you say, hey, do we want to switch this out or what? But, the thing that I try and do is, if you have a game plan that's working, my current running theory is, and maybe Quick can comment, I don't know how into game planning he is, but I would think he would know a thing or two about it. I believe that it's more than just the plays. It's the sequence of those plays, and that's not 10. It's sequence that falls after that. So once you get something that's clicking, that's working, if you go in there and start changing runs to passes and passes to runs, you've screwed it all up. So if I'm going to change a running play that I don't think is working very well, it's going to be for another running play. And if I'm going to change a passing play that I don't like, it's going to be for another passing play. But I'm going to keep that sequence that's working intact. So I don't know if that answers your question or not, but yeah, I will look at it. And if there's something needs changed, I do adjust week to week.
It's an interesting theory about how the in-game dynamics and familiarity and stuff like that works. I don't claim any insight or evidence into what you're saying, whether that's, I haven't heard anybody say it quite like that, but it's an interesting idea. I mean, you can't rule out that this one developer might have come up with a quirk along those lines, saying that passes following runs by some gigantic data set of NFL games played in 1997 tells us this, and therefore that's hard coded into the game. Can't rule it out.
Well, depending on the sequence, you might have 6 passes in a row, or you might go run, pass, run, pass, and then you go in and change it. Now it's run, pass, run. All of a sudden you've changed the dynamics of the sequence completely. If you pass 6 times in a row, don't you think the chances later in game of getting familiars and the chances of the defense adjusting, to the pass increase? I mean, that sequence has to be important, I would think.
I suggest it's probably more about a balance in overall balance. So after 10 plays, if you've thrown the ball 10 times, that's worse than throwing it 5 times, then running it 5 times, because then it's still 50-50.
Yeah, and we know just over the long history of this game, and it's different iterations over the years. I mean, one thing I think we know is that the developer wants something that looks relatively normal. And in various ways, we know the game has punished us over the year. If you wanted to run a game plan that was really extreme in a particular direction, there would be landmines that would mess you up, but just by virtue of the game plan looking that way or whatnot. And that has evolved over time, but that's still, I think, a reasonable principle to have in the back of your mind. Now, recently we've seen a couple, really clever game planners come up with, I'm going to throw the ball 850 times and run it 9 over the course of a season, and that seems to work okay. So maybe they've figured out exactly how to stay out of those landmines, but we know the game is finicky in some ways, and that, you pass 10 times in a row and we're going to catch on. There's probably something to that, and the use of specific formations or exact same plays certainly is part of that too.
Well, there's 13 formations, and I know you guys brought this up quick in one of your videos, where if you use a certain formation too many times, the game system doesn't like it.
Yep.
I wish Jim would allow you to use whatever you wanted to use, in the aspect. So if I wanted to run a 0-1-4 10 times, but different formations, different routes for it, I should be able to without getting penalized. It should be my players' ratings against your defensive players' ratings that would be the source of how the play, the outcome should be, not because I'm playing this type of formation.
Well, I've seen. If you look through the game logs, and I'm a big game log guy. I'll go dig out somebody else's game logs. Okay, what's Ben doing? I'll go down his game logs. What's Quicksand doing? What's and who am I playing this week? Am I playing Iowa? What's Coyote Vice doing? Let's go down the game log. Let's see what he's doing. And sometimes you're looking defensive more than offense, because you're going to look at the other side too. What's he doing that's working? And if you look at Ben, he uses so many runs out of 104 without familiars. So it's got to have something to do with how many of them are passes and how many of them are runs. Because he's running enough plays out of 104 that if I ran that many plays, most of mine would be passes, not runs. I'd have the familiars. So there has
Yeah,
to be
but
something to what you're doing in that formation too. Quick.
Yeah, no, nothing definitive, but I agree. This is a nuanced thing, and there are a handful of people who I think have pulled away from the pack at this level. And whether it's they've cracked the code specifically on exactly how the familiarity system works, or whether it's just a matter of I tried this and it works better, and so now I do more of this, or I do more of that, or whatever. It almost doesn't matter. I'm revealing myself now to be kind of an old dog, and I used to fiddle with game plans and that sort of stuff, and I used to adjust week to week. And I play in multiplayer leagues, and I just don't have the patience for it anymore. So I build all my teams basically the same way. I know exactly what I want out of tight end 2 and wide receiver 4 and my third safety, et cetera, et cetera. So it's just like a mental economy for me. But there are definitely some managers out there who are clicking at a different level than and I think many or most of us are.
Yes, because if you look at Ben's scoring, I believe he puts up like 30 points a game.
Yeah, he runs for north of 6 yards a carry. That's not a coincidence, and it's not just talent.
Yep, there's some game planning there. There has to be.
Yeah.
Let me add something about that 104 formation and running. Right? Maybe he doesn't run into familiarity, but when you're paying attention to it and you see another team running out of the 104 formation, 100% of the time you can actually mitigate it. But it does mean you have to train your defensive game plan for the upcoming opponents.
Right.
Yes.
And Ben is smart enough, I think, to know that most owners don't do that. Most owners don't dig in. I mean, there are tools out there to get a flavor of each team's game plan and approach and philosophy. And whether he's relying on laziness or stasis or fatigue or whatever, he just figures no one's going to pay attention to this. I'm going to run all the time with 4 wide receivers on the field, and you're going to have all your, ear pinner pass rushers on the field who can't tackle a lick, and my running backs are going to have a field day. And that's a perfectly valid strategy. And you're exactly right, Matthias, that there is a way around it. It's just how many of us are willing to do it. And like every day in the IHOF, are we willing to pull up our opponent and adjust accordingly? And for me, the answer is no, I'm not doing it.
There he is at the top. He's at the 6.25.
Yep.
Crazy.
6.25.
Yeah. And that's
outrageous. Yeah,
and
it's
this
awesome.
This is a passing team that's got a running back averaging over 6 yards a carry. That's crazy.
Right. But he's running 350 times. That's not. I mean, it's not like he's only running 120, and we've got a small sample size theater. That's a legitimate effort. That's more than 20 carries a game. But like, he's a full yard per run better than the entire field, than second best. It's insane.
Yes,
so,
he is.
That's fine. So it's. I mean, this isn't me trying to drag Ben. Quite the reverse. I admire his dedication. He's the guy who will drill down and sort these things out and will dot every I and cross every T, and he deserves the rewards from that effort. People like us and the people potentially listening to those of us should be paying attention, and we should be looking at those game logs, and we should be saying, what do you know? That guy is running a lot out of a 4 wide receiver formation. I think I understand why. Maybe I can learn from that. That should be the next step, right?
I think half the league is running out of the 104 formation at this point.
I started to do it some. I mean, it works. Why wouldn't you do it?
Yes, it does. Well, that's why we're doing these videos, so we can just give our intake on what we think about the game and what we do. And if people can learn from it, great.
I find it very interesting or peculiar that the Tucker Tigers only complete about 55% of the passes. That's
because he throws long, and so
I don't think he's that concerned.
You're not gonna you're not going to get a lot of good completions. However, he will put up the touchdowns for throwing those long passes. If you look at him, where is he?
Yeah, I think that's a decision he's already made in his mind. He says, I don't care what the percentage is. I want the points. I want the big plays.
Right.
And if you look at his game logs, I count plays 25 yards and more. That's a big chunk. I try not to give very many of them up, and then I want to get as many as I can, and then I look to see what somebody else is doing. He gets a lot of big plays, big chunks,
Look at his
25,
touchdowns.
35, 45 yards.
He's got 55 touchdowns the year before. He got 42. So throwing long for him, it seems as though he can get his receivers. He has the receivers for it that are going to give him that. So, like Quick says, fine, I'll take the 55 percentage. However, I'll get 42 touchdowns.
Right.
That's a trade-off.
And I think that's a trade any of us would make.
Yeah, I would do too. Yeah.
Plus, we know. I mean, he also knows that if on 1st and 10, he's going to throw a lot of incomplete passes on 18-yard targets. Then his game plan is, I'm going to go into 4 wide receiver spread and run the ball for 6, 7, 8 yards a clip on 2nd down. Right? He's already threaded that needle. So, like the penalty for somebody who's kind of uncorked the game planning mystery. The penalty for missing on a high risk play, a high variability play like long passes, is lower, right? He'll throw out these like relative hobo running backs. He'll take these 2 and 3 bar guys and get 6 yards carry out of them. That's fine. I mean, it's actually his number one running back is a non-hobo. I don't want to slander Sammy Griffin, so sorry to the Griffin family.
Look at Tizak behind him, only 70 yards a game. And then you have Paris at 194 yards per game. That's impressive.
Yeah, his running back had a phenomenal season.
Paris?
Yeah.
Let's get to
Chandler Ferguson.
Ooh, yeah. Big year, 2,500 yards, yeah.
524 carries. 524 carries. Impressive.
That's a few.
Yeah, that's like even Earl Campbell didn't get 524 carries.
What's his endurance like? 99?
Yeah, it's high. It's 90. Yeah.
I have 87. So but you guys are better than mine.
Yeah, so this guy will run all day. Like he's the prototype running back one, right? Super high endurance, really big hole recognition, awfully good breakaway speed. Nothing looks terrible. So yeah, this guy should be able to run all day and do it at a pretty high level. So it looks like Paris decided to ratchet that up between the last 2 seasons. They were getting north of 5 yards a carry from him. And they said, "What the hell? Let's run this guy. Let's run him 30 times a game, 35 times a game, and see if we can still, can we get 200 yards a game out of this dude?" The answer is pretty often yes.
It may sound weird because he's in my division, but I'm actually glad it works because it shows that you don't have to throw the ball 60 times per game to win.
Yeah, because his quarterback gave him 20 touchdowns. His running back gave him 19, so you got 39 right there. So he really has a balanced offense, even though it's more lean towards the running, and he's 11-5.
Right. I totally agree. It's good to see that this is a viable approach, right? And
isn't his quarterback getting free agency though?
Yes, he is. Here he is.
That could change things. Although, I don't know. I mean, I guess if you said, okay, what's the hardest part of this game? For me, sometimes it's playing defense against the run. I mean, teams always run on me. I play that bend but don't break. So I'm kind of ignorant towards what you do between the 20s. I don't care. As long as you're not scoring, I don't care. So when it comes time for me to adjust that, say, all right, now I got a team that's going to run. What am I going to do to stop that? I struggle. I don't stop the run very well. So maybe it won't matter who his QB is. He'll just keep handing off. I don't know.
That's what I was talking about earlier, because my team has been awful against the run. So when we played the last game of the season against Paris, I thought, let's figure something out and try whether it works. And all of a sudden, we keep that Ferguson guy under 100 yards. So maybe I learned something, but maybe I didn't.
Well, if you have a problem stopping the run in front office football, there's two positions you need to focus on: quarterback and wide receiver. Arrange to have a 17-point lead, and you don't have to worry about stopping the run anymore. That's it.
There you go. From his lips to our ears. Everybody hear that?
I'm taking notes.
We all have our pen out.
But the guy that can come out and run the ball at the beginning of the game and wear your team down and score running the ball, and he gets the lead, is tough to beat.
Yeah. If they're committed to it, my general thinking is I think of stopping the run as about the seventh most important thing on my list of things to do. I mean, I want to be able to play tiddlywinks together after the game. That's a higher priority for me. But I mean, it's true that being above average and effective and committed to the running game can be a centerpiece of your team. I'm willing to play the odds and figure the passing game is still really what dictates effectiveness in front office football, just like in real life professional football these days. So I'm going to focus most of my effort there. And, those dime a dozen one-trick pony defensive tackles who have like a 92 run defense, that's fine. Throw one of those guys in your defense, on the base setup. That's fine, but don't get worked up over it.
Now, do you think you could take a team deep into the playoffs with just one good wide receiver, one good tight end, and just a good quarterback?
Yes.
I think T-Zac could.
Or do you think you need two good wide receivers?
Well, the more receivers you have, the better. But if you have the tight end and the receiver,
yeah.
I mean, you would have to. I guess you would probably need some other target. You'd have to throw screens to the back, or throw to a second tight end or a second receiver as secondary targets, to break things up. You can't throw 30 passes to the receiver and 15 to the tight end every game. That would get you in trouble. But I mean, as far as those people doing the damage, yeah. I mean, you throw to X and Y, you throw to R and Z. You mix your combinations up and you move them around in different formations. Sure, you could.
Yeah, an entire team made of guys rated like 35, and then you sprinkle in a high-quality quarterback and two good targets. I think you could do some creative game planning to make that an above-average team. I don't know whether that'll ever be a 13-win team, but that could be a 10 or 11-win team. Yeah.
No, I'm asking a question to see how much does it take to get your team to the top. Of course, as many players as possible, but could you game plan enough, like we were just talking about, what you were just saying, with just two good wide receivers and make it to the top?
Right.
It would depend on how good. Are they 70 plus?
No, let's say they're in the 60s.
Well,
56, 55, 65, between there.
Well, I'm going to bet sooner or later somebody's going to double one and shut you down. Double them the whole game. I mean, that's one problem. You'd have to have a decoy receiver with a high route bar, stick him in there and, make them not able to double you. Then you could do it.
Well, I'm glad the draft's on. I don't even have a first-round pick. I have a second-round pick, so
where are we at?
I'm watching you guys.
Are we still on 1-4 or what?
That's a good question.
We're waiting for Rochester, who's pick number 5. So we're just flying along. I mean, this is
who
a furious day. So
who won it for?
the tight end.
Okay, that's not a surprise.
No.
So now the question is Rochester take the top running back, or is he looking at the second receiver? Because he got the QB last year, right?
I believe so. There's a lot of tackles in this draft. A lot of tackles.
Like that in the last couple of drafts. So
Quick, would you take an offensive lineman in the top 10?
I would. I have, and I would do it again.
Okay.
No, I know that there are.
I have
sharps.
too, and I've lived to regret it. So I was curious what you thought about it. Matt, would you?
Yeah.
Matt, would you?
I have, and I only have done that twice, and both times it was because I was under pressure. Time was running out, and my pick just fired without me having a chance to interfere. So it happened to me twice.
Yes, I would.
We know Clay would because he did it twice last year.
To me, a top 10 pick is for a wide receiver and nothing else. Maybe a defensive tackle.
I've always felt like skill position: safety, corner, receiver, QB, maybe a running back, maybe a great weak side linebacker, pass rusher if you're 3-4, but somebody that's super big impact for me.
For me, if I can't get a receiver, I need a lineman. One of them I messed up on, and I'm kicking myself for it, but I got to eat it. But if it can help my team, not give me penalties, and keep my quarterback upright, I'm picking him because then my quarterback can take teams apart. I don't want my quarterback being sacked and then fumbling.
That's funny because you know what? I'm sitting here thinking, the guys that have screwed me on top picks is safeties more than anything else. I think I picked 3 of them over the years that just totally just crashed, and I'm like, what the hell? Do you think there's a higher risk taking safeties, or am I just picking the wrong guys, or what? Quick.
I don't think there's anything inherent about the safety position that makes it riskier or more difficult than corner or outside linebacker or whatever. It's probably just bad luck.
Are you picking a safety this draft right now, Red?
I'm going to guess no, just because I'm scared. I'm afraid to take them at all.
It's too bad. It's too bad the first round didn't go, and we all picked already, and we could all talked about the pick.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know.
Theo, if you want to trade Maxwell, I'll take him off your hands.
Yeah, I'd be interested too.
Well, I'm going to figure it out what I'm going to do. I've got a very generous offer, but I'm not going to tell what I'm going to do right now.
I'll give you my second, my third, and next year's fourth.
Wow. Well, there it is. Just
better jump on that.
There's no fifth round pick involved, so no deal.
You didn't give him a sweetener. You didn't throw in the fifth.
I'll give you Red Zone's first for the next 3 years.
I bet he would.
No.
He wouldn't feel guilty about it at all.
It's interesting when you watch the draft and you're seeing everyone, they're looking for their toys for their next season to put on their team. It's great to see, and everyone's all excited until training camp, and then after preseason too, and then you're like, "Are you kidding me? Really?"
That's when people start saying, "Okay, here's the offense, here's the defense. I'll check every 3 or 4 weeks."
I like what Ben said. Ben said something about a guy who didn't know how to draft. However, he traded away his picks for players already on someone's team because they were already guaranteed. You know what they are. And that I can see works well. Like me, I'm a horrible drafter. That's something I would do. Like if I have a first round pick and I see a player on your team, I said, I'll give you this. I know what the players I'm getting. And then you just give your first round pick to a player who knows how to draft.
Right. I think that's interesting in concept. It's to some degree, it's what are you trying to maximize, right? So to some degree, like, okay, we're all here to maximize wins and create a powerful dynastic team that's going to win and win and win, right? That's what we all say we're doing. But on another level, like, this is a hobby. It's a game. We're doing this to have fun. And like, I feel, I mean, part of the reason I don't do this as much as I probably should on paper, because I'm the way I draft, I get at least as much value out of after draft free agents in every rookie class than I do out of like the 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds put together, because I can see the chemistry and that matters to me and stuff like that. But I don't know, like, I don't want to sit out the 1st and 2nd round of every draft. Maybe it's the smart thing for me to do to get that established 3rd-year guy, but it's less fun. And to some degree, I do this because it's entertaining.
Oh, don't get me wrong. I love the draft too. I love to be wrong or right. That's the best part, when you're right. For the players who are annoyed by the draft, we'll call it, that they can't pick a player, and they're like, and sometimes people quit over it. You might as well just do that.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
This is the tackle that was picked in number 2.
Yeah, that's the number 2 pick.
And he's a really good player.
Yeah,
I just don't know about number 2 overall with that receiver sitting there.
And yeah, particularly in this draft. But I mean, those were unusual circumstances, and I think that GM felt pressured and is now pissed off about it and so forth. So, and maybe rightfully so, but whatever. But I think there are asterisks around that pick. I don't think it was as simple as he gave it full deliberation and said, I definitely want this guy and not this other guy.
Well, let's go the other way. When you look at the draft class, you think, yeah, this isn't the guy that should be the number 2 pick. But when you look at what the guy is about, what he with his bars, and this is a good left tackle. So
you're talking about last year's
pick. It's just, yeah.
He does have a pretty good running back, and I looked at the team. I'm like, okay, what's he going to pick? Well, he wasn't going to take one of the running backs, that was for sure. So it came down to the tackle or the wide receiver. I mean, and the tackle's on your short list. I mean, he's got to be. But I mean, I guess he's planning on putting that tackle in and maximizing that running back more, with a better line, with better blocking. So, I mean, if that's his plan, then I wish him luck. I hope it works.
What team is he?
Moontown.
Okay. So this is his team. He's got an aging quarterback. Is this one? No, he didn't pick him up. And then you're saying he has a running back, Upshur?
I thought his running back looked okay. Yeah.
Yeah, the number 11 pick last season.
And
the other guy, Bernie. No, Sweeney.
This guy?
Swayze, whatever.
Swayze.
Yeah, Swayze is a running back. Interesting. Looks like he throws a lot to his running back, by the way. He got 180 passes or targets to his running backs. Over 200 if you roll in the fullback.
Wow, you better have some linebackers when you play him.
Guess so, yeah.
Yeah, he's got no receivers.
He doesn't.
He's got no receivers.
Which makes Maxwell the no-brainer pick. I don't understand why, shouldn't have taken 6 days. It should have been like instant. Okay, QB's gone. Next. Who's up at 3? I took the receiver.
Right.
I mean,
anyway, it's
Wow.
I think we got to put that in context. It's a weird thing. It wasn't as simple as eyes wide open there. I don't think. So.
I think you have to take into consideration that people might not even check the forum for this week. So because we're a week off. So
right. He was taking the week off to mean a complete week off, and then I think got nudged probably by the league commissioner that, hey, everybody's bickering that you haven't made your pick. And so he said, fine, boom, this guy looks fine, I'll take him. I think that's what happened. Not I evaluated the first 30 guys and decided. So, stuff happens. Real life intervenes and things like that. So, anyway, moving on. It's a windfall potentially for a wide receiver thirsty team, from the Netherlands. That's good. And then team 4 gets this crazy looking tight end. So, we get a weird unicorn situation there. They can try and figure out how to make him productive. And then maybe Moontown, runs for 4,400 yards next year behind this tackle. Who knows?
Anyone want to trade out of the first round?
Maybe.
No, you want to trade out of the first round?
I've got, I think 20. I think I have 20 and 26. So I could be ready.
I've got 16.
Yeah. After our last conversation, now I'm all jazzed up to be the guy who trades out of the draft and gets quality young players. So
I think I'd rather load up on some future picks. One of these years, Ladner's going to quit on me. I'm going to need somebody to replace him.
I don't think I have enough picks to give to you guys because you guys want to rate me over the coal.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think you're going to see the same value at 16 that you saw at 1-1. I mean, you'd have to pay something, but wouldn't be incredible. It wouldn't be some insane.
I couldn't trade with someone in my division. You kidding me? I would give you something, and the player you would get would be devastated against me. That would be be my life.
That's funny you say that because I kind of feel the same way. I mean, I have traded in the division before, but I normally don't, and that's why. Because you're like, man, I don't really want to be the guy that gave him this incredible player that he beats me over the head with twice a season for the next 12 seasons. Let him do it on his own and let him trade with someone else. Yeah, I kind of take that approach too.
Exactly. I'm more about crash and burn. Everyone else behind me can crash and burn.
Small ball thinking. I reject all that small-minded nonsense. Everybody's my rival, so forget it, man.
Okay.
Yeah, forget it, man. I don't want to worry about my division. These bozos in my division, forget it. I'm not worried about them. I'm worried about T-Zac and Ben. I'm worried about whoever's 13-3 last year. That's the team I want to worry about.
They're in the other conference. That's
that's where I want to be. I want to be playing someone from the other conference in the game that matters.
Merchant Man's worrying about them over there.
Well,
I don't think he's too worried. I don't
Everybody
think Matt's
should be
worried about.
Yeah.
I don't think Matt's worried about too much right now. He's looking at those two receivers and he's licking his chops. He says, "Where's that playbook at?"
Well, that's true. This is, if they don't bomb on me, this is the best wide receiver tandem I've ever had on my team. So I just have no idea what to do with them.
Everything. Follow Ben's chart. Give them every route. Every route. Just turn them loose.
Yeah.
Actually, that is basically the right advice, I think.
Yeah.
Oh, Toronto's going to have a nice quarterback with this Livingston on his team.
He's a red flag. How big a deal do any of you guys think that is? Especially if you're going to take a QB at 1-1. Does that change it? If he was a number 12 pick, would it be easier, or do you not care about that at all? Or what?
This is what I heard about it, and Quick is more experienced than myself. But I heard that someone that's a red flag, sometimes they play up to their potential, and then sometimes they drop off. Is that what it is, Quick?
So, like season to season, or game to game, or what?
Game to game.
Wow. Okay.
I think that's hogwash.
Okay, there you go.
But I mean, I'm framing that as an I think. That doesn't sound to me like anything the developer has said or written about his own game. And he's not the most direct in describing the way things work. I understand that, but we all are going to find patterns in random numbers, whether we're flipping coins and rolling dice, or whether we're watching this game and saying, well, in this game it worked, and in that game it didn't work. We're all victims of seeing patterns and finding narratives. I don't believe that stuff. I suspect red flags work in weird ways, like with contract demands and, getting pissed off about being under the franchise tag and, maybe other things like that, playing time and other stuff like that. I'm not buying that there's any kind of real evidence that a red flag guy is only 70 cents as good on the dollar because of this, that, and the other. I think that's nonsense. This guy's gonna play like a boss, and maybe he's gonna ask for half again as much money on his second contract or something else like that. I generally don't want red flag guys on my team because I'm the manicured roster with everybody pink and everybody green and stuff like that. So I don't want interference like that, but it's not because I think they'll play poorly. I just think it's a negative, it's bad karma. I don't want it.
Yeah, maybe it's just a negative. What is it? When you're.
Kodos is cheering somewhere if he's listening.
Yeah.
He says,
I was going to say that I think a red flag maybe is just a negative factor to your. What's the?
He just stood up out of his chair and said, "That's right. What Quick said."
Exactly.
Yeah.
He was about to jump off the building when I talked, and then he heard Quick and he came off the ledge.
Well, I meant the chemistry. Yeah, I was just looking for the word. Maybe it's better for chemistry to have a red flag, but.
Yeah. So if it reduces your cohesion benefits, or if it reduces your chemistry benefits, or it means that the player might miss up a few more plays or something like that, I think that's way different from this guy's rated 90, but he's going to play like a 60 every third game. No, I'm not. I don't think it's something like that. So,
yeah, I'm not buying that either.
Yeah, this Livingston guy is like, this is about as pure a prospect as we've seen in this league for years and years, I think. I mean, maybe save for the red flag, but I mean, he went to Northwestern. He's probably, going to win a Pulitzer Prize too. So that's good.
He's a smart guy.
Well, he needed him for his team. They're going to do very well.
It'll be fun to watch.
Yes, it will. Who's his quarterback now? Is it this guy?
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, he should be looking for a new home.
Yes.
That's why I'm asking. Is there a quarterback to be had?
I think Kodos is one of those general managers that will play the rookie, because there are some people who don't play their rookie in the rookie season, but I think you just have to.
Yeah.
Give the guy
A 1-1 QB. I mean, I couldn't sit him.
Same.
Well, plus you want him to get that experience in, like what Quick was saying.
Get in there and get developed.
Get him in there.
Get me to year 3 as quick as possible. Yeah,
Now,
get on the field.
Quick
Get a mentor. Yeah.
For a quarterback to get familiar with their team in this system, does it need 2 years, or is it 1 year and then it's?
I feel like 1 full year as a starter seems to be enough to knock out whatever that initialization factor is. There's some sort of early career rust factor. Like even a 5th-year guy who's never started and never thrown many passes, he'll have a crap year in his first year as a starter. It's not just hard-coded as a rookie. It seems to be quarterbacks with their first season as a legitimate starter. And I don't know whether it's your first 500 snaps or your first 15 starts or whatever, but my intuition is by the end of your first season, you're basically ready. And I mean, everybody is still on some development curve. So I think that, I just heard, like, let's get him to year 3 as rapidly as possible. Yeah, I'm down for that.
It kind of makes sense because I picked up a quarterback in one of my other leagues. Good ratings across the board. Crappy the first year. Doing much better now in the second year. So.
Like Peyton Manning, right? I mean, Peyton Manning threw just a god-awful number of interceptions in the real-life NFL his first season. Colts throw him out there with a middling offense. They're losing a lot of games. He's slinging it left and right. He's throwing pick sixes and so forth. He looked like Jameis Winston. But
he also threw a lot of touchdowns that year, too.
Yeah, no, I mean, it was like they had to throw a lot, and he was learning about the speed of the game and so forth and making a bunch of mistakes in process. But mean, that's a guy who worked out okay as last I checked.
Yep.
But his first season was not a sterling. He wasn't up there yelling Omaha and audibling to the whole new play and all that kind of stuff. He was getting his clock cleaned awfully frequently by making mistakes, but that's what it took. It wouldn't surprise me if that particular player left a profound influence on the one-man development show for this team. And he felt like, that ought to be hard-coded into the game. Almost no quarterbacks show up and are really, really error-free in year one.
Maybe, but I think Peyton Manning was still a rookie when Jim developed front office football.
What was that?
I think Peyton Manning was still a rookie when Jim was working on front office football. So
So like this particular player might have been in version 1 or 2 or 3 of this very game as he was refining all of the various hidden dice rolls and so forth. I mean, if there's something hard-coded that says a quarterback who has not yet thrown 400 passes, he's going to get this modifier. That could have been in there for 25 years now, right? That certainly could be.
Yes, it could. Oh, we got a new season ahead of us, and we got the free agency market, we got the draft, all excited. And the people who have the money to spend. Chicago, do you have money to spend? Ooh, you don't.
No, sir. No, sir. We don't have any. Can you lend me some money?
You're in a healthy situation.
I can lend you some of my $67 million.
Well, this has helped me get fired up, and I thank you for pulling together all the strings to bring this together. I mean, it might have been a different conversation if we were through the first couple rounds of the draft, but even if it's just looking back at last season and getting sort of whetting the appetite for what's ahead, this has been great for me. Thanks for having me aboard.
No, it was good for all of us. I enjoyed it as well.
Yeah, it was fun again.
I miss Coyote. Where you at, Coyote? You couldn't make it today, huh?
Who?
Coyote Vice.
No, he could not. He could not.
Well, his ears are burning. We spent like a third of this conversation talking about Iowa. So,
all right, guys. So enjoy the rest of your weekend. And,
all
right. Thank you.
See you guys in the playoffs.
Maybe.
Okay.
I like it. Yes.
All right, guys.
All right. See you.
Have a good one.